Hey everyone, this is Sir Balo, and for this video, we're going to talk about another object-oriented programming principle, which is about composition. And specifically, for this lesson, we're going to talk about, of course, as usual, what is composition and how to implement it in Dart, and what are the benefits of this object-oriented concept principle, and when do we use composition. So first, let's talk about what is composition. And to give you an idea now, it's from the word, composition is from the word compose, right? Compose means to create something. So, kumbaga, yung concept natin in object-oriented programming is somewhat similar to that. But basically, composition is a design principle where a class is composed of one or more objects of other classes. As simple as that. And to give you a real-world analogy of this concept, let's go back to our very first object na I should just show you in the very first video natin, which is car. And as you notice naman that there are a lot of parts in motorcycle. Oh, in the car, sorry. So we have the engine, the ignition, spark plug, distributor, batteries, and including the wheels then. So just like in the real world, an object like a car on the surface, no, yung nakikita mo lang is yung cover niya, yung color ng cover niya, yung shininess ng object niya, ng cover niya, yung coating niya, the wheels, the side mirror. But if you deep dive, no, if you're an automotive expert, no, or a mechanic, meron pa pala itong mga parts inside that are intercommunicating to one another. So we cannot say, or no, we can assemble a car if wala tong mga necessary na mga parts na to. Kasi if one of these is missing, chances are magmamalfunction yung object natin. So ganun din in object-oriented programming. Here's another example. A computer. A computer is composed of speaker, keyboard, monitor, mouse, and system unit. And inside this system unit it's also composed of many different subcomponents like the hard drive or SSD, the memory, motherboard, and so on and so forth. So again, just like in programming, a certain object can also be composed of other components or objects. Now, composition has a relationship, which is in contrast to the inheritance, where the relationship between is base class, superclass, or a derived class is a relationship. Ito has a. Kung sa Tagalog, meron, or yeah, just like in a car has a wheel, car has an engine, a car has a ignition. So anyway, we'll have some specific examples of this. Yeah, as I already mentioned kanina, car has an engine. So between the car and engine, if they has a relationship, we could say that there's a composition principle that's going on around between these two classes. Specifically, the engine is part of the car. No. Then car has wheels. Another is computer has a keyboard. And computer has a screen. That is the next. Composition also involves creating complex objects by combining simpler objects. Yan, yung nakita natin kanina, no? And complex object like car is made up of simpler objects combined together. And now, so if we're going to translate that real-world analogy into a program, ito na yung itsura niya. So we have car class, we have although maraming parts yung isang car, maraming components, for the sake of demonstration, let's just narrow it down to 3 parts. We have engine, wheel, and then transmission. And they are treated as attributes in our car class. So also, you notice that the car constructor, since tatlo yung attributes niya or objects niya, subcomponents niya. So tatlo rin yung nandito sa constructor natin. And we have the methods, start class. And you notice, no, when we call this method now, let's say we have a car object, and we're going to call the start car method. What's going to happen is each of its objects tatawagin niya or is going to call its respective na mga methods. No? For example, okay, first is yung engine, magsa-start. Yung wheels, for each of the wheels, dapat magro-rotate. And then, lastly, meron pa pala, transition, mag-shift up. And then lastly, pag-operate ng car is moving. So, kumbaga, this is just more of a simulation, no? When in a real world na car, na pag magsa-start daw yung car, ito yung mga specific na mangyayari for each of these objects. No? And the car is going to ask specific requests or commands for each of its components. Same also with the stop car. What happens now is yung transmission na object niya is shift down. Wheels, it's going to make it stop, each of these wheels, and it's going to stop the engine. And lastly, it's going to print car has stopped. So yun. And if we're going to check the classes now, kasi obviously, these are objects. These are not just primitive data types like integer, double, string, character, and boolean. There are objects now. And of course, we cannot create an object unless we define it. Diba? So, dapat meron din silang corresponding class definitions. And just for the sake of simplicity, we did not include lang the attributes niya. Pero we make sure that we add the methods. This is our methods, no? Engine, ito yung start and stop. Anyway, these are just simulations na naman. Just to demonstrate the concept of composition. And now, if we're going to create a car object, before that, no, we have to first create each component. Each object of each component. Now, like line 55, we have to create first an object or instance of an engine object. Same also here sa line 56. But since apat man yung wheels in the car, so that's why we have this list generate in order to generate an array or list of wheels objects. Then transmission object. Kumbaga, we just called the constructor of each classes in order to create their corresponding objects. And these 3 objects right here, yun ang ipapasa natin sa constructor natin on line 60 in order to create a car object. And once we have the car object, then we can start calling or giving instruction or commands to that object. So we want the car on line 63 to start. And then after that, print. And then lastly, we are going to tell the car to stop. And yun. And syempre, pag we execute na itong line 63, it's going to run this one. This line 40, 41, 52, and 43. Same thing also with the stop car. Once this method is called, it's going to jump to our class and execute whatever instructions are nandito sa function 47 up to line 50. Yeah. And so that's it. That's pretty much about it with our composition. And now, let's talk about why we should use composition. There are many reasons, but for me, the main reason why you should use composition is it promotes code reuse. Similar to inheritance, no, we can reuse an existing code. But yung sa inheritance is, in order to reuse an existing code, we have to inherit all of the attributes and methods of an existing class. Sometimes that is not what we want, no? Especially kung wala naman silang, if the class that we're going to create doesn't have an is a relationship, but rather has a relationship. So instead, in order to still na ma-reuse natin and magamit natin yung mga functions, attributes, yeah, or specifically yung methods talaga yung importante dito. We're going to create an object and we're going to make it as a part of that new class instead. Just like what we did in the car, no? In the car class natin. And when do we use composition? On what specific scenarios can we use composition? We use it when we need to reuse code across multiple classes, but they don't share a common ancestor. Kumbaga, we have, let's say, 2 or more classes, but iba-iba yung yung base class nila. Or posible yung ibang classes, walang base class, yung iba meron, but yun nga, iba-iba yung base class ng subclasses na yun. Or, better then, we use composition when those classes should not be forced into an inheritance relationship. So yun, as mentioned, no? If the classes that you're going to create doesn't have an is a relationship with the base class, so yun, just use na lang composition instead. And where can we use composition? And the most frequent application of this is when we are creating a user interface, a complex user interface. No? So we compose user interfaces, obviously, by combining smaller widgets or components. Just like when you see in a form, diba? Like, yung nafi-fill up ka ng name, address, iba-iba yung mga components dyan in the form. We have the text box, the label, and the button, usually for the submit button, radio buttons. So yun, those widgets or components are the main components of that form. And it's also a complex object. Then another is data model composition. Let's say you have a customer class that's composed of address, contact info, and account details. And perhaps the address contains specific attributes like the province or the country, province, city, the street, or the municipality. So those details could be part of the attributes for this address na object. Then contact info, pwede ring email address and cell phone number, and yeah, so on and so forth. And pwede rin, no? We could use composition if in microservice architecture, if you're familiar with microservices. Let's say, for example, we have a single service composed of several other services in order to perform its task. An example of that is an order service. So, diba, when we are making an order, yung bumibili tayo ng isang product in shopping application, usually, may iba-iba yung mga services that's going on there. Like, of course, when we make an order, check pa if that product as a stock pa sa inventory, ilan na lang yung stocks niya. Payment service, we have, diba, sa payment service, iba-iba yung mga options sa payment, diba? Pwedeng by over-the-counter, pwedeng by bank, pwedeng by e-wallet and GCash. Shipping service, let's say this is responsible for providing the options sa shipment. Kung ano ba siya, should be picked up, should it be delivered by door, and Yung pag-deliver ba nito, saan ba siya ng next station or warehouse, i-deliver, so on, something like that. So yun. And that would be all for this video about composition. So I hope you learned a lot from this topic. And if you have any questions, just leave it in the comment section. And hope to see you guys in the next video. That would be all for today, and bye-bye.